They fear you most when you stop needing them. Let me tell you something they'll never admit out loud. Something that keeps them awake at night, scratching at the walls of their comfortable illusions. When you finally learn to sit with yourself in the silence, when you stop reaching for validation, when you stop performing for their approval, you become something they can't control. And what they can't control, they fear. What they fear, they try to destroy. Being alone doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous. Because solitude is the forge where wolves are made. And they've spent their entire lives teaching you to be a sheep. You've been conditioned since childhood to believe that isolation is punishment. That being by yourself means something is wrong with you. They built their entire social architecture on this lie. Schools, churches, corporations, social media, all of it designed to keep you tethered, desperate for connection, willing to compromise yourself just to avoid the terror of your own company. They knew that a man who is comfortable alone is a man who cannot be manipulated through his loneliness. Think about it. Every advertisement, every movie, every song, they all sell you the same narrative: you're incomplete without someone else. You need friends. You need a partner. You need a tribe. You need to belong. And if you don't have these things, if you dare to walk your path without the approval of the herd, then you must be broken. You must be fixed. You must be brought back into the fold. But here's what they never tell you. Here's the secret they've been hiding behind their forced smiles and their shallow conversations. The abyss you've been avoiding, the one they warned you about, the darkness of your own solitude. It's not your enemy. It's your liberation. When you were betrayed, when they turned their backs, when you were left in the silence with nothing but your thoughts and your pain, that wasn't the end. That was the beginning. That was the moment the old version of you started to die, and they can see it in your eyes now. They can feel it in your presence. You went into the darkness, and you came back different. You came back with something they'll never understand, because they've spent their entire lives running from it. You learned to sit with your demons. You learned to shake hands with your shadows. And in doing so, you became something that doesn't need their world anymore. The dangerous man is not the one who screams and threatens. The dangerous man is the one who has learned to exist outside their system of rewards and punishments. You've discovered that you can survive without their validation, without their approval, without their love. And that makes you unpredictable. That makes you uncontrollable. That makes you free. They operate on leverage. Every relationship in their world is a transaction. They give you attention so you'll give them obedience. They give you belonging so you'll give them conformity. They give you comfort so you'll give them compliance. But when you stop needing what they're selling, when you've built your own fortress in the solitude they told you to fear, you've removed all their leverage. You've broken their game. And here's where it gets interesting. Here's where your aloneness transforms into genuine power. When you're no longer performing for an audience, when you're no longer shaping your words and your actions based on who's watching, you finally start to see yourself clearly. The mirror stops lying. The masks fall away. You're left with the raw, unfiltered truth of who you actually are. And for most people, that's too terrifying to face. They'd rather die as a comfortable lie than live as an uncomfortable truth. But you didn't have a choice, did you? You were forced into that mirror. The betrayal, the isolation, the silence, it shoved your face into your own reflection and held it there until you stopped struggling, until you stopped pretending, until you looked yourself in the eyes and accepted what you saw, the light and the shadow, the hero and the monster, the angel and the demon. That integration, that acceptance of your full self, it creates a frequency that most people can't handle. They're walking around fragmented, wearing different masks for different audiences, constantly exhausting themselves trying to be what others need them to be, and then they encounter you. Solid, unmoved, complete in your solitude, and it threatens the very foundation of their fractured existence. Your presence becomes a question they don't want to answer. If you can be whole without all the things they're chasing, if you can be at peace without all the validation they're desperate for, then what does that say about them? What does that say about the lives they've built on the foundation of need and dependence? So they'll try to pull you back. They'll call you cold. They'll call you arrogant. They'll call you antisocial. They'll diagnose you with disorders and deficiencies. They'll tell you that you've changed, that you're not the same person you used to be. And they're right, you're not, because the old version of you died in that silence. The old version of you was weak enough to need them. This new version, the one forged in solitude, the one who learned to be his own companion, his own validator, his own source of strength, this version terrifies them. Because this version can walk away. This version can say no. This version can look at their whole circus of fake connections and shallow relationships and choose himself instead. And let me tell you something about the power of that choice. When you genuinely don't need anyone, when you've built yourself into a complete fortress, people start gravitating toward you in a different way. Not the weak, not the users, not the parasites looking for someone to feed on. Those people scatter when they sense there's nothing to take from you. But the real ones, the rare ones, the ones who are also walking their own path, they recognize you. They see the same marks on your soul that the abyss left on theirs. Being alone taught you discernment. It taught you the difference between connection and convenience, between loyalty and transaction, between love and leverage. You've learned to spot the fakes from a mile away because you've spent so much time with yourself that you know what authenticity feels like. You've become a living lie detector, and most people are lying to themselves so deeply they don't even know it anymore. They'll call your standards too high. They'll say you're too picky, too judgmental, too harsh. But you know the truth. Your standards aren't too high. Their standards are too low. They've accepted crumbs and called it a feast. They've accepted betrayal and called it friendship. They've accepted mediocrity and called it happiness. Because they're terrified of the alternative. They're terrified of what you've already survived. The silence that broke them remade you. The loneliness that would destroy them refined you. The isolation that would drive them insane gave you clarity. And now you carry that inside you like a weapon they can't see but can definitely feel. When you walk into a room, they sense it. Something in your energy tells them you're not like the others. You're not seeking. You're not needing. You're not performing. You're just existing, complete in yourself. And that creates a gravitational pull that messes with their entire social hierarchy. The approval they use to control others doesn't work on you. The rejection they use to punish others doesn't touch you. You've already been to the bottom. You've already lost everything, and you survived. That's the ultimate freedom. When you've lost it all and rebuilt yourself from nothing, what can they possibly threaten you with? What can they take that you haven't already learned to live without? This is why being alone makes you dangerous, not because you're violent or aggressive or destructive, but because you're unchained. You've broken free from the invisible prison they call society, the one built on need and fear and desperate belonging. You've discovered that you don't need their validation to validate yourself. You don't need their love to love yourself. You don't need their approval to approve of your own existence. And here's the part they really hate. Here's the part that makes them want to destroy you or convert you or convince you that something is wrong with you. Your peace threatens their chaos. Your solitude threatens their dependence. Your strength threatens their weakness. Because if you can do it, if you can survive and thrive outside their system, then maybe others can too. Maybe others will look at you and start questioning their own chains. You've become living proof that their way isn't the only way, that their rules aren't the only rules, that their game isn't the only game. And that makes you dangerous to their entire structure. They need you to be miserable alone. They need you to come crawling back, desperate and broken, willing to accept whatever scraps of connection they're willing to throw you. They need you to validate their choice to stay tethered, to stay trapped, to stay comfortable in their prison of social obligation and shallow relationship. But you didn't come back broken. You came back forged, tempered, sharpened, and now you stand as a silent testament to a truth they've been running from their entire lives. That the only person you ever really needed was yourself. That the only validation that ever mattered was your own. That the only approval worth having was the approval you give yourself when you look in the mirror and recognize the warrior staring back. The wolves don't travel in packs because they need to. They travel in packs because they choose to. There's a difference. Need creates dependence. Choice creates power. And you've learned the difference in the darkness they told you to fear. So let them be afraid. Let them whisper about how you've changed, how you're different, how you're too comfortable in your solitude. Let them diagnose you with their labels and their disorders. Let them try to fix what isn't broken. Because while they're busy trying to convince you that something is wrong with you, you're busy building an empire in the silence they abandoned you to. You're learning languages they'll never speak. You're developing skills they'll never master. You're becoming a version of yourself they'll never recognize because they're too busy being versions of themselves that someone else approved of. This is the final truth about being alone. It doesn't make you dangerous because it makes you angry or bitter or resentful. It makes you dangerous because it makes you free. Free from their manipulation. Free from their control. Free from their need to keep you small so they can feel big. And a free man in a world of slaves is the most dangerous thing there is. Not because he wants to destroy their world, but because his very existence proves that their chains are optional, that their prison is unlocked, that they could walk away anytime they wanted. They just don't want to. They're too addicted to the comfort of captivity. But you've tasted freedom. You've survived the trial by fire of your own company. You've looked into the abyss of solitude, and instead of blinking, you built a home there. And now when they look at you, they don't see a victim of isolation. They see a master of it. They see someone who weaponized the very thing they feared most. That's why being alone makes you dangerous. Because you've transformed their greatest weapon against you into your greatest strength. And they have no defense against a man who has learned to be enough for himself. The game is over. You've won. Not by their rules, but by your own. And that victory, that silent, unspoken, undeniable victory, is written in every step you take, every word you speak, every boundary you enforce, every compromise you refuse. They'll never understand it, but they'll always feel it, and that's enough.